Excellent. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're a little after the hour, but we'll stay on track and we'll get back on track here. Again, you should be here for the Corporate Data and Voice Cyber Security Webinar. Oh, excellent. My slides are not. Bear with me. There we go. A huge thank you to our sponsors. Can't do it without them. So we have a few folks from Telarus. Jason, if you want to kick off introducing yourself.
Hi, my name is Jason Stein. I'm the Vice President of Cybersecurity for Telarus.
Excellent. Melissa, you want to say good morning?
Hi there, Melissa Rowe. I am with Telarus, the channel manager supporting CDVS. Thank you all for joining.
Excellent. Gabby, you want to say good morning?
Good morning, everyone. I'm the event manager for the East Coast for Telarus. Thanks for being here.
Excellent. The folks from eSentire, if you want to say a quick note.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Dustin Cornell, Senior Solutions Architect at eSentire.
And Philip, are you still on?
Well, good morning. My name is Siamak Mojdi. I'm IT manager at Heritage Automotive Group.
Excellent. All right. The Ntirety group?
Are you talking to me, Joe?
No, the folks over at Tom. You want to introduce yourself? Did we lose Tom? Joe, are you there?
I'm here. I'll do a quick.
Double muted.
Oh,
so Tom Hood, Channel Solution Architect for Ntirety.
Joe Gio, Regional Channel Manager for the Northeast, supporting CDVS. Thanks all for coming.
All right. And I'm not sure if Paul is with us.
No, we can skip Paul. I don't believe he joined.
Okay. All right. Excellent. So moving along here, we have Jim O'Malley, Joe Spampanato, Rachel Neri from the Corp DVS team. I'll be the MC for this event. The agenda that you've already should have seen, I'll be doing introductions as I am doing now. Then we're going to turn it over to Jason with Telarus, eSentire, Dustin, Ntirety. Tom will be presenting, and then we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. Little housekeeping. This session is being recorded, and we will be sending out a link afterwards so you can share or review the information. Please mute your camera and microphone during the presentations. It will help us keep on track. Use the chat feature to ask relevant questions. I'll be monitoring the chat, so if you do have something that is pertinent to the timing of the presentation, we want to make this interactive. This is for you to learn. So chat your relevant questions in. If you have a more detailed, relevant question, use the raise hand feature, and we'll ask you to go off microphone or off mute and ask your question. And then after the session, we will be sending the Amazon gift cards as a little thank you for attending our event. And now for the main event, enjoy the presentations. We do thank you for joining us today. So without further ado, I will stop sharing. Excellent. Jason.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Super excited to have this conversation. Again, as Joe mentioned, we want to make sure that we make this interactive. So what I want to do is jump right into cybersecurity statistics for 2024. So as of this year, we saw global criminal activity rise from $8.6 trillion to $9.6 trillion. We're really seeing a big uptick in the activity and trying to get our arms around it, trying to mitigate it. SASE is that secure access service edge, which is the security that layers on top of an SD-WAN. And last year it was a $13 billion industry, and now it's $14 billion. So we're seeing people still are moving away from VPN, moving away from the old MPLS, and then they're putting that security measure on top of it. Now, IoT has raised 22 billion devices here in the United States to 41 billion. It's going to be an $875 billion industry here in the next year. Now, if you think about IoT, we have sensors in the hospitals on heart monitors for patients. We have them on the crash carts for medicine for our loved ones. You know, unfortunately, my mom's in the hospital right now, and imagine if they prescribe the wrong medication to her, that could be super detrimental. They're actually putting sensors on porta potties. I don't know if I want that job, but you're actually seeing it saves people money in order to, you know, make it more efficient. So you have the right people going to oil and gas facilities and not overfilling or underfilling. Now, this is an interesting statistic. 339 billion emails get sent out worldwide every single day, and 85% of them are either spam or malicious. That's probably consistent with all of our emails, right? Now, the hardest part is that, you know, according to Gartner, we only make employees spend 49 minutes a year doing cybersecurity awareness training, yet 82% of all breaches are caused by humans. It's really pertinent that we increase the cybersecurity awareness training, make sure we're focused on not allowing our clients and our employees to click on anything that could be harmful to our organization. Now, this is one of the most sinister cybersecurity awareness trainings. I don't necessarily recommend you try it, but it would be interesting to see. I had a Fortune 1000 company have 5,000 employees, and they wanted to make sure employees weren't clicking on bad things. So they did a simulation. They sent out an email to every employee that said, "We are super sorry. We never thought we'd see this day come. We unfortunately are closing our doors. We would be happy to be a reference for any of you. Please click on the link below so that we can send you your last paycheck." 90% of the employees clicked on it. Next day, they sent out an email and they said, "Listen, that email that got sent out, unfortunately, we got compromised. Please, we're trying to make payroll in the next 3 days or we'll be fined and reported to the FCC. Please fill out the information below so that we can make payroll, because unfortunately, all of our payroll records got wiped out." 98% of the people clicked on the link to fill out all their payroll information. So super crazy, but unfortunately, employees are still the root of all of our problems. So we need to make sure that cybersecurity awareness training is super important. We can do that with the suppliers on this call and lots of the ones here in our portfolio. Cybersecurity risk is becoming huge. I might touch on this in a little bit. It's a $215 billion industry, really understanding where our risks are. And what's interesting is, you know, according to Gartner, by 2025, still 60% of organizations are actually going to use risk, cybersecurity risk, as the determinant on how they're going to conduct their third-party transactions. You know, so some additional statistics. I don't know if this is similar to everybody on this call, but 80% of CIOs said that they got a stipend or an uptick in their cybersecurity spend, according to Gartner, for 2024. So hopefully that all hit your buckets. And if so, you know, we can help you really whiteboard your environment and put together a roadmap to make sure that you're putting that money to use the best way possible. We saw cyber criminal activity increase by 91%. People always ask me, what are the industries that are most impacted? And you can see that on the right here: manufacturing, business services, retail is huge. You know, we still have hospitality, education. You know, there's 3.8 million cybersecurity attacks every single day. And if you break that down, there's 44 attacks every second. In the United States, a breach happens every 17 seconds, which is pretty crazy. So we're here to help. If you need those, just to use us as a soundboard, we can be a free reference for you. There's still 3.5 million vacant cybersecurity jobs available worldwide, 1.5 in the United States. There's just not enough quality resources. And so it's really hard to develop a SOC and SIM and make sure that we're putting all the right things in place when there's just not enough resources. There's still 32 million companies that identify as being SMB in the United States. Yet, according to Gartner, 35% said that they don't have a full-time cybersecurity person on their staff. So if that's similar to you or resonates with you, then you're not alone. That's you know, very common. And we can actually come in with a team of people, give you the technology, and help you with all different aspects of your business. So Forbes says, here's some of the trends for 2024. First, greater privacy. Regulations are coming into place. ZTNA, Zero Trust, is going to replace VPN, which we saw earlier. And then threat detection and response is becoming mainstream. You know, you're going to see more risk management, third party, people outsourcing that, more outsourcing of their cybersecurity. So it's more common to not necessarily have to do that in-house, but to rely on other people. And then cyber insurance is causing a big increase in demand. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how you can utilize us for helping you with your cyber insurance policies. So we're seeing the worldwide IT spend be 5.1 trillion. 350 billion of that is inside the cybersecurity space here in the next year, which is huge. You know, CISSPs are in high demand. There's only 154,000 CISSPs in the world, 95,000 in the United States. Yet there's 85,000 jobs that require CISSP. So if you need one, we actually have 4 on our staff. We can come in and there'll be a resource for you. CISM is the equivalent of a doctorate degree in risk and governance. There's 17,000 in the United States, and still there's 5,000 jobs that require one. So across the bottom, I asked all of our engineers, which I have 20 engineers on staff, what are we getting asked for the most? And it's very similar to what Forbes and Gartner are saying. Risk, identity and access management, which I'm going to get into here in the next slide. Artificial intelligence. This is the year of AI. We're seeing a 54% adoption rate. Companies want to be the first to move to moving their company to an artificial intelligence type of platform. But yet we don't know what some of the ramifications are. Well, we can help you secure that. Compliance, data privacy are all very big. IoT, that Internet of Things, OT, operational technology, zero trust, and security awareness training. So you're seeing some of the things that I touched on, some of the things that Forbes are saying are all things that we're being asked for the most. So if these aren't on your radar, you know, let's definitely make sure that they get on your radar and we can help you with that roadmap. So we already talked about this. We're seeing a big growth from 175 billion this year to 350 billion, and 37% of that is here in the United States. So I asked a lot of our customers, what are your biggest concerns? What are the biggest challenges? And this is what they came up with: the rise of AI, rapidly growing, fear of the unknown, not much security in place for it, data quality, you know, increasing complexity with AI. Then you have risk. And so I'll get into that here a little bit more granularly, but hardware and software failures, human errors, viruses, malicious attacks, and then natural disasters that we can't really necessarily help control. Supply chain attacks, zero trust, again, risk, patching. Nobody gets up every day and wants to do patching, but we talk to customers and we're like, when do you patch? And they say Wednesdays. Okay, what happens Thursday through Tuesday? We take our chances. All right, well, that's not necessarily always the best advice, but we'll go with that. Then the human aspect. We already talked about that. Lack of quality training, remote users, 80% of all breaches are caused by humans. Very, very challenging landscape. And I imagine that, you know, a few of these may hit your purview. The average IT person that I talk to is overwhelmed with how many different types of security companies that are out there. I just met with a $9 billion company that you guys are all familiar with. I sat down with him and I said, how many employees do you have? And he said, 15,000. And I said, how many are on your IT staff? And he said, 15. And I said, what are they good at? And he started to talk about a few things. And I said, what's a burden to them? And he said, compliance. We have to do all these audits. It's super tough for us to pass all these audits. And, you know, my guys aren't experts when it comes to compliance. And he said, do you have a soundboard that you can pick up the phone, call, and you can just run tech by somebody? And he said, no. And I said, well, you do now. I have 20 engineers plus myself. You can pick up the phone. You can talk about what you're looking to implement. And we have a judgment-free zone. You can just, you know, pick our brains and we'll tell you what's the best tech out there. So you all on this call have it between the team on this call and all of our engineering resources, plus the suppliers. If you think about cloud and security are becoming one. Remember when contact center and unified communications were two separate things and now they're CX? That's what you're seeing with the cloud and security are meeting together. Between the network and the cloud and the applications, they all need to be secured. And that's where we can be a resource for you. So cloud is the first aspect of cybersecurity, and you're going to hear Ntirety talk a little bit about what they're doing from a cloud perspective, and we can help you there. You know, the average IT decision maker has these things on their radar that they have to do from a security standpoint: digital workspace, IT automation, storage and database, compute, infrastructure, network. It's overwhelming. We have a team of resources that can come and help you turn all these bubbles green and help you move some of these into getting accomplished. So, you know, if any of these are similar to what you're dealing with, we have a team that can help you there. So here's the focus for 2024. First, risk. You heard me talk about this. We want to identify, analyze, and evaluate, treat risk. We want to identify what are different risks that are detrimental to your business. What are some of the costs associated with those risks? And how do we make sure we limit those risks and prioritize which ones you guys should work on? A lot of times it's being driven down by the board or management. You know, we're here to identify, you know, what are some of the common risks? You know, what are some of the measures that we need? How do we monitor them? And then how do we mitigate them? And just for example, we have a company in our portfolio called MaxSure. They come in and they help you with a risk assessment. Then they identify the different buckets of risk. They put a score next to them. Then they can help you with your cyber insurance policy. We can make sure we keep your costs down, and then we can move you into an amazing supplier like Ntirety or eSentire or one of the other ones we have to help implement some of the cybersecurity solutions that they have in place to mature your cybersecurity posture. So we're seeing cyber insurance becoming really big. It's now a $13 billion industry. 34% of organizations in North America have to have a cyber insurance policy. I just was the keynote speaker to a large, very large manufacturing automotive company. And I said, did your cyber insurance policy go up? And they said, yes. And I said, okay, it used to be $1 million for $100,000, right? And they said, yeah. And I go, now what is it, 300,000? And they laughed and they said, no. And I go, what are you guys paying? And they said, $1 million. And I said, how big's your policy? And they said, $1 million. And I said, what's the rationale behind that? And they said, we are required by our partners, our vendors, and our suppliers, and some of our customers that we have to have it. So we have $1 million bonfire every single year just so we can get $30 million worth of business. And I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. Well, what if I could lower your policy? And they said, yeah, let's do it. These are some of the things that are driving the cyber insurance policies to go up this year. You need a comprehensive risk assessment and identify your risks. You need robust security controls. You need managed detection response to layer on top of your endpoint detection response. You need policies and procedures. You need compliance and regulations. You need strong cybersecurity awareness training, stronger passwords, multi-factor authentication, and then an incident response plan, as well as a good patching plan. And we can help with all of those things. With a few of the suppliers on here can do almost all of those. The next thing I wanted to talk about was we all love that we look at our phones and we're able to log in on our phone just by using our facial recognition, right? We have now added a provider into our portfolio called TrueU who does passwordless login credentials. They use your camera. They use the way that you position your hands on and how hard you push your keys. They look at the way you position your hand on your mouse and then how you click on it, and it gives you more access or less access, and it limits your privileges, and it's amazing. They came in, worked with a big Fortune 500 brand. They work with the SMB space as well. They saved them $17 million annually by removing some of these unneeded things that they had in their portfolio just because they're able to utilize newer technology. So if you guys would like to move towards passwordless login credentials, we can absolutely help you there, and you can work with Joe and team to do that. We talked about rise of AI, right? 54% of organizations are moving to an AI. It's going to be a $150 billion company, expected to continue to grow. How do we protect it? Today, SOAR, the orchestration layer, EDR and MDR, SOC and SIM. You know, and then I'm sure Tom and Dustin will go into a little bit more on how we can help protect you from an AI perspective. Governance is huge. We can help put a governance, risk, and compliance tool into your arsenal. You know, I know Ntirety has that in their arsenal, and you'll see there's a big adoption rate. We can help manage that governance aspect, limit some of those risks, and give you better tools and visibility. Unfortunately, you know, over 90% of organizations, once they get one attack, can fall victim to, you know, going out of business in the SMB market, especially those under 1,000 employees. So I try to power through what usually takes about 40 minutes so that we can get to the suppliers. Joe, do we have any questions in the chat for me?
I don't yet. So I just want to clear clear something up that might be at the tip of other people's tongues, I guess you could say. So Corporate Data and Voice Solutions utilizes Telarus as a conduit to different solutions providers. Jason, how many solution providers just in the security aspect?
About 80 suppliers. I get hit up by 90 every single month, and I turn 99% of them down. We only want the best of the best. We have 500 suppliers in total.
Amazing, right? So Telarus is our conduit to finding the right solution or solutions for various reasons, right? So in the security space, as we're speaking today, I'm imagining, Jason, it can be as simple as someone reaches out to corporate data and they ask, you know, I need help with maybe a certain aspect or maybe a general conversation. So it doesn't need to be defined, correct, Jason, when they reach out to us?
Yeah, we're not here to sell you anything. We're here to be an extension of your team. We're here to be a soundboard. We whiteboard your environment, talk about what you have in place, talk about where we see some gaps specific to other companies that are similar to you in size and industry. And then we help you make some recommendations and help create a roadmap for you. And then we introduce you to suppliers.
Sounds really expensive, Jason.
Free.
So I want to confirm how much?
Free.
Amazing. So we're here working with Telarus as an extension of your team, correct? Of the teams that are on our call today. So I'm going to turn it over to Dustin. Hopefully you are ready.
Good to go.
Excellent.
The screen.
Yes, we do.
Good. Cool. All right. Yeah. Welcome to eSentire. Just give you a quick background, and then I'll jump right into it. We're a 20-year-old managed detection and response company. We helped create the category of MDR when it first came out, and we are 2,000 plus customers, and we're in over 80 plus countries and roughly around 600 employees, just to give you an idea of size and depth of the company. So what we do to help, a core of what we do is manage detection and response, which Jason was alluding to some of that earlier. We also do continuous threat exposure management. CTEM is the new acronym that you'll see in the marketplace. And we also do digital forensics and incident response. So, you know, we have a wide knowledge and depth of understanding of the security and what our customers are asking for and what they need. Again, it goes from everything from vulnerability management, pen testing, cloud assessments, dark web monitoring. We start talking about doing the actual MDR portion, which is, you know, endpoint, SIM, network detection, and then that goes into just doing the full-on IR engagements. So that's just a little bit about the portfolio. But how does it work and how does it help you? So we have what we call, our XDR platform that handles all of the data coming in from our clientele. So the signals that you're seeing on the left-hand side here, those would be the services that our customers would subscribe to. So whether you have like an endpoint solution, whether you want us to look at the network data or the SIM information, we pull that into our platform and we do all of our analysis inside the XDR platform there. We're doing things just to touch on, you know, the AI component, machine learning. This is where the automation component comes in for us. So we're doing basically correlation of the asset data. We're looking up geolocation information. We're normalizing the data, taking the raw telemetry and basically turning it into something that will make sense for our security analysts to look at. So we have the automation layer before the analyst, and then those analysts are kind of that, more or less that last line before it gets to our customer. And their job is solely to make sure that the information that's going out to the customer is an actionable piece of information. We do not want to send just, information for the good of sending it. Anything that we send out is actionable for our customers. And that means it's something that needs attention from your perspective. And through that process, we build that all out into a portal and have access for you so that you can view all that data. You can keep an eye on your exposure management. You can look at all of the risks that are in your environment, and we help you, on a regular basis, look at that information and decide how we can improve that, whether it be through advisory services or, adding more managed detection and response components to the platform. So what sets us apart as an organization? For us, I just mentioned it, we are not here just to send an alert. We are here to give you a response, which includes, some type of isolation, containment, blocking. We're not here just to send you an alert. That, if you want to go back 20 years ago, people were just getting alerts from providers, and that was good enough. It is not good enough anymore. The whole point of managed detection and response is to be able to provide that response functionality, and we do that in 15 minutes. So our mean time to contain is 15 minutes, and our SOC is 24/7. Just some little stats on threat intelligence wise: 30% of the intel that we have is ahead of the commercial feeds that you can buy out there. 12% of that is never even seen in commercial feeds. So it just goes to show the amount of information that we are obtaining from all of the organizations that we protect, and being able to feed that back into our global customer base. Through that, we're also doing what we call threat hunt. So there's a difference between what our security operations center is doing from an operational perspective, and then you include our threat hunt individuals. So they are there to do the threat hunting. They're behind the scenes. They're looking at all of the new vulnerabilities that are coming out, white papers, all that kind of research. And they're ultimately figuring out, how do we build new capabilities like machine learning, artificial intelligence, to help the SOC increase their capabilities and help our customers increase their protection, the protection of their environment. And then through that, basically comes the talent, the proven talent that we've had. Most proudly, I'll say 6-year average tenure from our SOCs and threat response unit is a huge kind of accolade towards eSentire and the work we've done to retain that talent and continue to grow that. And then overall, just proving that through the reviews and the satisfaction of our customers. Just to highlight, I just talked about the threat response unit, so I just want to dive into what that portion actually is. So, the difference between us and some other individuals, we think that the threat hunting and the threat intelligence are foundational to MDR. So we don't have it as a separate portion of the business. We actually have it built into MDR itself. And that's why I was mentioning we have the SOC, and then the threat response unit is that separate team that sits behind the SOC, and it's really driving all of the detections and the capabilities inside the SOC. So there's no separate, business model for the threat response unit. But these guys are looking at, they're looking at threat landscape. They're doing proactive threat hunts across their customer base. They're diving into the dark web and pulling out information around new 0 days and ultimately building out those novel detections that Jason was talking about earlier. And in that same breath, as we were talking about AI and kind of the functionality, we've actually built in some ChatGPT-like functionality into the portal to help our customers navigate the security incidents inside the portal, so that you don't have to sit there and do your own investigation, or you don't have to go through the process of running reports. You can actually just ask the chat, and it'll do the investigation for you and come back with some response. So just trying to take advantage of some of the new capabilities that are out there, and building that into the platform to help build out security for our customers. I already talked about some of the numbers in terms of just the threat feeds and how much we're seeing. One of the crazy stats I'm always looking at, though, is the 200 plus IOCs per day that we are bringing out of the investigations we're doing for our client base. This isn't even threat intel that we're subscribing to it in the wild. This isn't anything that we've paid for. This is 200 IOCs that we're getting from our customer base. So from those 2,000 plus customers that I talked about earlier, we're bringing in 200 plus IOCs that we can now deliver globally to our customer base from those investigations that we're doing. Just talking about extending more or less the value that we're providing back to the market. So if you're ever listening or want to listen to kind of like some threat intel briefings or some information there, we do monthly briefings, and we do weekly basically analysis or write-ups. So those are available. You can actually get to that from our website. We can also send some information out to you, but the true intelligence briefings really are great, a way of getting information. They're not specific to any sort of industry or anything like that. They're just there to discuss what we're seeing that's hot in the marketplace, as far as attacks that we're seeing, and also attacks that that are out in the wild. So that information is available, and we do that from both again, monthly and a weekly subscription model. And then I'm just going to skip ahead one slide to just give you kind of like a more or less an overview of how people usually come to us and what they come to us for. Basically, when we talk to organizations, the biggest challenge we see is that there's usually a lot of tools in place that you've already subscribed to, and there's already a lot of maybe talent or people in the organization that are working with those tools, but they don't necessarily have the ability to take all of that into a single pane of glass and really kind of monitor all of that information from that one view. And so for us, it's about consolidating all the information that you do have, whether it's tools you already have or tools that we're bringing, and bubble that all into this Security Operations Center so that we can ultimately build that out for them, and they don't have to worry about building their own SOC. Trying to build your own SOC can be really complex and super costly as far as just like the overhead that's involved there. So it's just an example of how we can help and some of the challenges that we see as far as building out a SOC/MDR today. And I'll stop it there, Jason. Is there any questions in the chat?
I don't see any specific. Dustin, you showed us an example of I think it was 5,000 plus size organization. What's, is that the typical size organization that you work with, or do you work with smaller and larger organizations?
Yeah, great question. So we work with, basically everything from a couple employees all the way up to 10,000+ employees. We have some super large enterprise companies, then we also have some small mom and pop shops. So, that's kind of the depth of where we go. I would say our average customer range would probably be from about 500 to 1,000 and be, where our sweet spot is.
Okay, great. And you mentioned organizations may already have tools in place. Did I hear you correctly saying that you have the ability or may have the ability of working with those tools, or do they have to scrub what they have and work with something that you work with? Yeah,
great question. So the net is we can work with some of the tools that you may already have in place. So it's probably a conversation that we'd have to understand what you have in place today. Chances are we probably have worked with that tool, already have it under the portfolio, or are already looking at it. And what we're working towards is an open XDR platform where we can integrate with all sorts of tools, not just the limited tool set that we might supply today from our perspective. So yes, we're open to both the tools that we have and the tools that you might have in your environment today.
Yeah, I'm thinking more like a mainstream, like a SentinelOne or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we work with the best of breed from an endpoint perspective, SentinelOne included, CrowdStrike and the like. So, most of the individuals that we communicate with already have one of those best of breed technologies. So it's easy for us to integrate from that perspective.
All right, great. So you'll be here at the end as well, right? So if we have other questions that come up.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Excellent. Tom, we'll turn it over to you. And please, folks, don't be shy. Please chat in some questions that you may have. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining today. I'm here at Ntirety. Our main focus is we are a security first, channel only managed service provider. And one of the key things that I want to talk about today is what we're seeing in the market and how we've been helping customers. So when we start looking at it from a security first point of view, as to a lot of the points that Jason made, infrastructure and cloud are now intertwined. And with our 25-year pedigree of hosting, we were doing that for years, and we were securing it. So what we've been seeing is the major uptick in specifically, the managed infrastructure. How do you do it? How do you secure it? And why do you secure it? That's one of the key things that we've been seeing a lot of folks talk about is I've gone to AWS and I'm secure. Well, unfortunately, there's that shared responsibility model. And what we're here to do is really help understand where you are today and understand where the business outcome is, because a lot of the points Jason was making, with mitigating risk and people being the biggest point of failure, no matter how well you can build something, it matters how are you going to secure it, and more importantly, what is the data doing for you? So when we talked about the managed infrastructure, we kind of look at it in three different ways. One being, you can come in our four walls, and I like to consider multi-tenancy like an apartment building. We're going to take care of all of the plumbing and the critical everything else, and you're going to really have that ability to move around your furniture as you see fit, and or move into a larger apartment. Then we look at virtual private cloud, where you need to be a little bit more secure. You want to make sure that you have a few more locks on your doors. But similar to a house, a virtual private cloud does take a little bit more time to expand. And then the Wild West is what we've seen is, customers who have gone to AWS, they've gone to Azure. And I like to think of that as kind of like an Airbnb model, because you're there, you have your four walls, but everything else is your responsibility. And being overwhelmed is something that we've been having a lot of frustration with when it comes to customers, because they're like, well, we did all these changes, and that's great. But having the ability to work with folks like CDVS, Telarus to help understand where you are today and where you need to be is just really crucial. So once you have your infrastructure, because everybody has infrastructure nowadays, how do you secure it? And just buying a point solution doesn't do it anymore. Back in the early 2000s, buying antivirus and a firewall and you were good to go. But everything has gotten more sophisticated. So here at Ntirety, we actually manage and maintain 3 North American-based security operations centers with all Ntirety employees. We utilize MDR also, because that is such a mainstream piece of the security puzzle now. Because if you aren't managing, detecting, and responding to threats, how are you going to be able to make sure that you can keep the lights on? And then, what a stat that really kind of blew me away that Jason brought up was on the spam emails. How many of you, and when you're thinking about it, how are you protecting against that? How are you protecting against them putting in? So we're looking at it from not just let's do all of this. It's where are you today? Where can we help plug the holes in the security? And how do we make sure that you can recover from it? Because it's not if you're breached, it's when the breach will happen. You have to have those guardrails. You have to have the safeguards in place. Otherwise, that's where, you know, you're having those exposures. Now, the one I like to look at is really talking about data services. Everybody has a database, and data is the new gold. That's really where the bad guys are going for, because to go back to Jason's example, they wanted their bank account numbers. They wanted their home information. You know, previously they were looking at, you know, in 2021, 2022, it was ransomware. They wanted to shut the business down and get the ransom. But now they're going for the larger targeted audience because there's so much more information out there, because we are all so have that false sense of security when we're putting things in forms online, when we're signing up for things. We're taking the assumption that it's secure, but as a business owner, that assumption now falls on you. And how do you do that? Well, here at Ntirety, we have a full-blown managed data services where we can go in, make sure that you're holding the correct data in the right places. We can encrypt that data. And then on top of it, make sure that's really secure, but you're also offboarding the data you don't need. A lot of the major data breaches that I've seen is people holding on to data, and they didn't realize that they put it in the wrong place. And now all of a sudden, sensitive information got out there. And the way we tie that all back, because security is huge. You have to be able to secure it. But now, with everything that's happened from COVID, from cyber liability insurance to new compliance fees coming out, it is a big lift on organizations to stay current. It's hard to go out and figure out what the next step is. So what we ended up doing is we kind of broke out the compliance aspect from security, because managed compliance is very, very rigid. There is no way around it. It's you have a control or you don't have a control, and it's very complex. So what we started to do is have these conversations with customers. What are the pain points that they're going through when they have to do the audit? And we really dived in and made sure that when we are starting to talk about a managed compliance offering, we can go in there and help them from the initial gap analysis, understanding where you are, understanding what you have, what you don't have. And that's where we lean on Joe's team, the Telarus team, because, you know, I can't do everything. Any provider that says we can do everything is going to be kind of one of those that I don't know if I would trust it. So we want to make sure that we understand the gaps. We work in tandem with Joe, with Rachel, with Jim, and then we start looking at, here's the tools that you need. And instead of having to go out and figure out a governance, risk, and compliance tool, we actually provide that. We provide the guidance and the expertise, because when you start having these internal conversations of risk, a lot of the risk comes down to security and compliance. Because when it comes to risk, it's what is your tolerable risk and what is your actual risk? And a lot of times when I have conversations with customers, they say my risk level is a 1, when in actuality, they don't have a lot of the things that are needed. They aren't doing phishing awareness or anything. They aren't doing email security. They may have some security products, but what we're seeing in this landscape is really understanding where you are today. How do we match that pace of change? Because this is an ever-evolving industry. The government's putting things on us. Our customers are putting things on us. And we really look at it for, how do we work with you today to ensure that our people build the process to understand and hit your business outcome? And boiling the ocean is never the way to go. Understanding it and taking this in bits and bytes and understanding what is going to be most impactful for you today is going to be the way we do that. And that's why here at Ntirety, we look at this as security is really 4 major pillars. It's where the cloud is. It's the managed security of people looking at it. All of those people are trained. They have those certifications. And then how are you utilizing your data? And then most importantly, what does that data contain? Does that contain personal health information? Does it contain credit cards, social securities? And how does that fall into your compliances that you're looking for? Whether it's you're looking to break into a new industry, whether you're breaking into new customers, they're going to want to have some sort of badge saying, hey, congratulations, you are as certified as we need you to be, so we want to work with you. Security has turned into the topic of not a nice to have, it's how much security do you have? Because the more you have, it's going to do a few things. One, lower your cyber liability insurance. Two, it's going to entice more customers to want to work with you because they know that you're doing your due diligence to ensure that anything that they transact with you is secure. And here at Ntirety, we want to meet you where you are today. And how we do that is these four things. So with that, I will turn it back over to the team. And if there's any questions, please feel free to bring them up.
So Tom, you and I have had this conversation before about, you touched on managed services, but your Ntirety focuses on the security aspect of managed services. So a lot of companies today utilize managed service providers, right? To do their desktop support, to do their server support, to do their networking support. And some of them, I hate to use the word try to piece together this security aspect, right? Can you add a little color about how Ntirety works with or alongside the managed service provider instead of trying to replace them?
Yeah, so we're not here to take over the world per se, right? What we want to do is understand where they are today. And there are gaps in any MSP when you're using a service provider. And when we're talking about security, we want to understand what the risk is first. They can have everything hosted, they can have their network, but they may not be doing MDR. They may not be doing the phishing awareness training. They may not be doing these smaller parts to the organization, and something as simple as patching, because patching is so crucial. So what we do is we work alongside them to understand what they're doing, and then we will then take the agnostic look with you and your team to understand where we can help and what the tolerable risk is for the customer. We don't want to sit there, and the one thing we're not is prescriptive. You will never get on a call with anybody at Ntirety and we're going to say, you're going to need X product. We want to understand what the landscape looks like and what you're looking to achieve. And that's why we, just because they have an MSP already, doesn't mean that they're secure, but it means that they've done some steps in the right direction. And we're not there to displace them. We're there to help complement them in regards to the security, compliance, and data side.
All right, I appreciate it. So Dustin, if you want to come back on video, I'm going to open it up to other questions. Again, we're coming up on the hour, but we want to make sure we do answer any questions that are out there. This is, I think collectively we all agree that this is a judgment-free zone, right? We've heard that tagline before. Security and securing, your organizations can be daunting. And sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So please feel free if anybody else has any questions. Boy, I know some of these people that are on this. I don't know what's going on, but they're being very shy today, and I'm not sure why. So, here we go. How do you evaluate an organization's risk and determine the right place to start?
Yeah, Tom, Dustin, you guys can weigh in. So typically we would start with a risk assessment and then try to identify what risks you're susceptible to, and then try to put a price to them. Tom, Dustin, you guys want to elaborate on some of the things you guys are doing from a risk perspective?
Yeah, to chime in, that's exactly where I would start, is an assessment. We got to understand what the landscape is if you don't know what you don't know. And then from there, we start to look at it from a couple different facets. What are you looking at for the risk you have today? And then what we do is start to understand where you want to go. Is it to be more compliant? Is it to reduce the internal possibilities? And that assessment is really crucial in allowing, one, you to have a landscape and a starting point, but also gives you a great ideology of where you should be going. And that's when we can partner with Telarus, Joe, and team to ensure that you're going down the path that is best for your organization, not what's best for Ntirety or eSentire. We're here to help be that building block to ensure your success.
Yeah, that's a great point, Tom. I think just to add to that, I think from our perspective, you're absolutely going down the right path. Assessment is the perfect place to start. And I think just from our side, we certainly don't expect everyone to have the budget to jump into the deep end and have all these services right off the bat. It's just not feasible with all the other expenses in organizations. So our job is to take a look at what you do have and just kind of assess where we can start, and that might be I'll call it a single source of detection for us, but at the end of the day, that's better than nothing. And so it's just about assessing where you are and how we get to the finish line at the end of the day.
So the ways that we would look to do that we'd identify the enterprise portion of your organization. What's aligned to that would be the organizational factors, the people factors. We'd look at internal, which is still people factors, but it's also industry factors. External, you're looking at situational factors. And so we try to identify things that you wouldn't necessarily think of. And there's a lot of them. I don't know, there's probably a good 20 of them that maybe you're not aware of, and then it puts a cost associated with them. So we start with the assessment, and then we move into more granular information on guidance. And that's really where you get the benefit. And then that's what turns into creating a score and identifying. So some of the cyber insurance policies now, you think $1 million policy pays $1 million, and it used to 2 years ago, but now they've chunked it. And out of that $1 million, it may be only $200,000 for a certain type of breach, $200,000 for ransomware, and it caps out. So if we identify that a risk to your organization could cost you $10 million, but your cyber insurance policy caps out at $2 million, then those are things in areas that we want to focus on and address and try to put some different security measures in place. Great question.
We have one more. Will you help me understand? Okay. Will you help me understand my cyber liability insurance policy and how to lower my premium?
So premiums are going up, and we showed that slide that shows all the different things now that they're requiring. And so a policy that used to cost $100,000 to get $1 million is now going up. If you don't have multi-factor authentication, if you don't have passwords in place, it goes from $100,000 to $200,000, from $200,000 to $300,000. And those are just costs that you're losing. But why go from $100,000 to $300,000 for $1 million policy when you could put $20,000 in a month into cybersecurity initiatives? And those initiatives will lower your costs from $300,000 back down to $100,000. So having multi-factor authentication, having stronger passwords in place, putting policies and procedures in place for your backups, for your disaster recovery, those are all initiatives that the cyber insurance companies are requiring that are going to allow you to keep your policy back down. So as opposed to just paying the insurance company, it's better to put those insurance measures and those cybersecurity measures in place and keep your costs down. Great questions, Joe. Thanks.
Excellent. Tom, Dustin, do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
this?
to add into that, to lower the premium is definitely, to Jason's point. But, another thing to note is that, previously with cyber liability insurance, there was no validation that you actually had the tools in place. Now they're requiring, before they pay anything out, they're going to validate. Did you have the multi-factor? Did you have MDR? Did you actually have data loss prevention in place? So they're being very granular on that. So one way of, reducing risk for the organization is not having that be the headache of yourself. Have that be the headache of Ntirety and eSentire to say, hey, we did all of the correct things. Because if something does happen, it's not like it was before of we're just going to pay it out. They're gonna investigate, and they're gonna look for any reason to not pay, because they're now requiring these stringent new guidelines and the validation aspect.
Excellent.
Great point.
All right, so we are coming up. I do have one last question. I as I'm speaking with customers and my peers and business owners, I do ask the question now. It's more top of mind for me. You know, what are you doing for security, cybersecurity, and protecting your data? And one answer I get back a lot is, well, we moved a lot of our apps to the cloud. So does that sound familiar? Does that answer sound familiar to you folks, Jason, Tom, Dustin? And what's your answer to that? And we'll wrap it up here.
Tom, Dustin, I'll let you guys do.
So I always talk about what a shared responsibility model is in the cloud, because I get that question all the time. I'm in the cloud. Awesome. Now, are you aware that you're responsible for securing your data? They're like, no, it's in the cloud. So what we're doing is similar to that, conversation of understanding where they are. Just because they went to AWS or Azure, it doesn't mean it's architected correctly either. So this is really where that ball of wax starts to really unwind. It used to just be, I'm hosted in the cloud, great, I'm secure. Now it's, I'm hosted in the cloud, but what are the security measures that you have in place? And that's where we start being very, consultative, because it's a scary place. I mean, AWS released something like 200 plus new product lines last year alone. How as a business owner, can you keep up with that rate of change? So utilizing folks like Telarus, Ntirety, eSentire, we can help mitigate that headache and really help understand where you are and make sure that you are at the security that you think you should be.
Awesome. Dustin, anything to add? We are up on the hour, but you have anything to add?
I think Tom summed it up pretty good. Well, I think we'll leave it there.
All right, perfect. Folks, appreciate your time. We are at the top of the hour officially now, so want to thank everyone for taking some time out of the day. We will be forwarding the recording out to you folks to review, share with your peers, share with others. Hope you received something useful out of this hour, other than a $25 gift card. But appreciate Jason, Tom, Dustin, appreciate your time and effort putting together a succinct presentation for us today. I know I've chatted with all of you. I've seen all your presentations, and I learned something new again today. So every time I meet with you folks, I learn. So I hope everyone else did as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. You have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.